Okay.
All right, we're live now.
Okay.
You want me to say the opening prayer?
Sure.
Heavenly Father, thanks for this opportunity we've had to come together again tonight to discuss the case and to learn from each other. And please be with us as we do that, that our minds can be open and that we can have a good discussion. In Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Okay, spiritual thought. Anyone?
No, we lucked out. They forgot to write it in this case, so we don't have to have one. Unless someone's dying for one.
We didn't even need to pray either.
Overachieving. No, I don't have one, unless someone really wants to give one.
Nah, if we need one, we can always give it to Braden when he joins us.
Today is Ash Wednesday. I don't know what that means, but some people it's real important. So there you go. Okay. Should we get started?
Yeah.
So
we're supposed to put the value on right now?
Yeah. What value would you put on Right Now Technologies? And you know what I say about value? You're only worth what someone's willing to pay for you. So I would say, what was the offer? 50 million?
No, it was based on 50 million. It was going to be a multiple of that. But they had another value from the VC that I'm looking for right now. It was like 129 million.
Yeah, the post-money valuation was 129.
Yeah.
After the Series B round.
And they never said what the sell price was going to be. They just said it was a multiple of 50 million.
So what does that mean? Do you know? Like they were going to do it in segments of 50 million at a time?
No, they were taking the previous year revenue was 35 million. Mm-hmm. And they were going to take what the forecasted revenue of 50 million was and do a sales price off of that valuation.
Oh.
So he might have offered, 150 million.
Gotcha.
Braden, you haven't missed much. We're just starting on question 1.
Okay. So 2 or 3 times the last round's post-money valuation. So, I mean, they have an offer. The other is sort of nebulous because it's not, we don't actually have a firm number, right? But we do know that 129 was mentioned as a solid number. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I can't remember what the number was. When Right Now closed on 16 million, led by Summit Partners, the post-money valuation was 129.
Are we just trying to figure out the value right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and what's interesting too about that value, what year was that given? It says 1 year and 1 day after its first round venture capital, Right Now closed on 16 million Series B round led by Summit Partners. The post-money valuation was 129. The stepped-up valuation was underwhelming given the company's explosive growth in 2000. Revenues had exploded from 2 million in 1999 to 11.3 in 2000. Their company, so the 129 figure was actually, sounds like an older number, was it not?
No, it was right around that same time.
Okay. So I may be misreading that. Okay. So
because the first time they got money, the valuation was 100 million. And so this was the second time was the 129.
Please provide a range of values rather than a single number. How did you come to this conclusion? So what are some range of values we can have?
So just off of last case where people would pay 3 times the, what was it, the revenue or sales?
Yep.
So
And their
if they
total
made-
rev was 35,879,000 based on the exhibit. So 2 times that or 3 times that would be a good number to start, right?
Yeah.
That's 105, 105 million
Right.
would be 3. So anywhere from like 100 to maybe 150 million because of the VCs are offering 130 essentially.
Right.
And then I think the IPOs, if they did just do the initial public offering, I think that that's usually well above if they were acquired, what they would pay.
Mm-hmm.
So was that going based off their $35 million in revenue?
Yeah.
Because also something else to think about, the people who wanted to, like the acquisition offer, they said they were willing to look at, it says they're willing to pay the multiple on right now's revenue run rate approximately 50 million a month, 12 month of sales revenue, which was 35 million. And so 50 million times 3, that'd be 150. So yeah, like you were saying, anywhere from 5 to 150 million.
Well, what Sarah was saying, that 50 million wasn't, that's just how they were going to pay him or something like that. That wasn't like their valuation of it.
Weren't they saying they were willing to pay them the?
Yeah, it was a projected
Forecast, yep.
revenue. Yeah. So it could be up to 150 million.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So how do we come to this conclusion? It's basically going to be some multiple of either their, to Andrew's point, their current last year's revs or their forecasted numbers, as we talked about, which would have been 50, or even, as a stake in the ground, the VC valued at 129. So somewhere in that 100 to 150 range is probably a good value.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3, if Greg's investors seek a 30 to 50% internal rate of return, what exit value would they expect? What did they come in at? I can't remember.
Well, the last investors he had, that's when it had been valued at 100. No. Yeah, at 100 million. Oh, I'm so confused with my numbers. That's when it had been valued at 100, and then it went up to 129. So that's about a 30% rate.
Yeah, or if you look at even pre-2000 IPO attempt, I mean, they had a 16.4. Oh, sorry, that was 100 million. 16.4 million round, which was that was the capital raise, but it was based on 100 million valuation. So, yeah. So the exit, I mean, if they came in at the 100 million range to get a 50%, they'd need to leave it 150. To get a 30, they'd have to leave it 130. Pretty simple. True?
So even though I'm confused, so what are you saying they invested? Are you guys thinking they invested 100 million in that Series A round, or are you going off the valuation?
Off the valuation, it says eventually a deal was struck in December 1999. Right now closed the 16.4 million round, led by Greylock. Summit Partners also participated. The post-money valuation was 100 million. So even though they didn't raise 100 million, they basically purchased, let's just call it, they purchased 16.4% of the company, which was valued at 100 million. So if the company that they bought into was valued at 100 million, and then it was eventually going to be valued at 130 or 150 million, then that would have been a 30 to 50% profit. Not that they own the entire company, but they own some portion of it, and their portion would be increased by 30 to 50%. Does that make sense? Kinda, not really.
No, it's the way I understand it. So they invest the 16.4 million, which raises the company valuation to 100 million. I get that. But if they just were their internal rate of return, I think that would just be on the 16.4 million because that's all that they invested in it.
Yes, so that would be about 4.8 million.
Is what they for like a 30%.
Yeah, and you're looking at like 8 million is 50%.
Right. So that's, I mean, it's all relative though. Their stake in the company, it's not that their piece of the pie became greater. It just means that it's a bigger pie. They're basically owning the same percentage. It's just valued at more money. So if they had $16.4 million worth of the company, now their piece of it would actually be worth, let's say, 8.2 million more than what it had been worth. The company as a whole would be worth more.
If they're talking about equity, I think you're on the right track, but I don't think the question's asking about their percentage of equity that they own. They're talking about just their rate of return, which would just be on the investment that they give. Well, I guess, yeah, I could see what you're saying because, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see what Jason's saying because I don't know how to put it into words. So
yeah, I mean, I would just go ahead.
Like if like Jason was saying, what was the initial valuation? Wasn't it 100 million?
Yeah, before they invested.
Yeah. So if the exit value is 150 million, 50% rate of return, like how much, like you're saying, how much they invested because it's still going to grow the same amount.
Right. If I invest 20,000 in Andrew's company and it's worth 100,000, and then we see each other over lunch a year from now, and you say, yeah, my $100,000 company is now worth 200,000. Well, my 20% means that I actually own 40. My shares are worth 40,000. It doesn't mean that. I mean, the company is worth more, so my investment in your company is worth more as a result of that. So to Sarah's point, she's right. If the number is 50%, it's like really their share in it grew by 8.2 million because they don't share in the whole 50 million. They just share in their piece of that. So their rate of return would increase by the 8.2, as I understand it.
Okay.
Correct? We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Provide your analysis of each of the options Greg is considering. Okay, so we'll stop there and just kind of go through. So he's considering doing having the mothership come and take over the company at some multiple of future forecasted sales. He's also got plan B, which is to punt and just keep going and growing organically, and perhaps look forward to a time in the future where he can have an IPO, or plan 2B would be to punt and not do an IPO and just continue to grow until the water is warm, and I guess he can do an IPO at some point in the future. Anything you'd add?
I remember one thing specifically from reading it. One really important thing to them and one thing they struggled the most with was the visibility. I mentioned that quite a bit throughout the different options. And I think the acquisition, that was really attractive in that aspect to them, whereas the other two weren't as attractive. I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So based on your analysis, what should Greg do?
I started thinking that he should sell, but after I finished reading everything, off and keep growing. And the value is really not that different from where they're at to what they might sell it for.
Yeah. The difference is, I think, with risk. The risk, if you sell, the risk is now with the person who owned it, because, you know, they went through a 2001 where the tech bubble and it burst and NASDAQ went down, and, you know, you go through something like that and all of a sudden your company could be worth a whole lot less than what you'd hoped it or expected it to be, because, you know, it's kind of like owning a home in 2009, 2008, 2009. I mean, it just is one of those things where you become subject to what the market dictates. So if they wait, they could find that their values in 2 years actually are half of what they had been because of some sort of correction in the market or something.
Yeah, I don't know if he was really worried about that. He had a goal. He wanted to make jobs and prove that he could do it. I think it was more of a challenge.
Yeah.
He didn't need the money.
So which choice or option are you going with, Sarah?
I think he should hold off and not do either. I think he should, they have cash right now, so they should just keep growing the business.
Okay, so keep it and grow it.
Yeah.
And
I don't think the IPO yet, though.
And I think they should probably just be acquired, because the IPO could go really bad. I mean, there's a few times where the IPOs were pretty underwhelming because of the pullback in the market. And the other thing with being acquired is, like to Braden's point, if his goal was to have greater visibility and be more recognized brand, if he was acquired and they were to become basically adopted into this other company, it gives them greater market share and gives them the ability to, it kind of opens new doors for them.
And also,
Go ahead.
another thing is that just because their competition was so much bigger and more successful than them and more established, that kind of put them at a disadvantage. And it was saying that it would probably take them like decades to get to where their competitors are, and the acquisition would allow for them to grow a lot faster on a larger scale. And that was another one of the things that they'd struggled with and that they're trying to work on.
Yeah, I think, though, the other concern about being acquired that you get is when you're acquired and you're part of a bigger company, that, you know, the company is based out of Bozeman, Montana. I mean, the company that buys them could just decide they want to fire all their salespeople and engineers, and they want to locate them in the Bay Area or something. So you really give up control of your company to those kinds of decisions. So that's kind of the risk that you take with acquisition. But
So I was.
That does what I was saying.
Oh, sorry. I was right there with you guys on the selling up until I read the one paragraph that said, says first an all cash deal. That's what that was offered as, would mean that right now was betting on the currency of its acquirer. And if traditional enterprise software was in decline, would right now, after its absorption, be enough to keep the stock price strong. So it's not a cash deal.
they'd be acquired through equity.
Yeah, it's all stock.
Yeah. The other thing is they're getting into this whole deal with CRM, and it's new to them. And, you know, that there's a risk that comes with jumping into and changing your whole business model. They're going to have a sales force instead of doing it over the phone. And, you know, if they go and do all of that and they basically turn the apple cart over, it's possible that this doesn't, that they, it's not as successful like it once was because they changed their business model. But if they're already sold, that's not gonna materially affect. I mean, it's basically gonna be on the hands of the person that acquired them. By the way, I know what happens. I Googled them
I
and
haven't looked it up yet.
huh?
I hadn't looked it up yet. What happens?
They're acquired by Oracle.
In what year?
I don't know. I just went to their website and it's hosted by, and they're basically an extension of Oracle. So I'm assuming that Oracle acquired them.
My choice is kind of the other one. I didn't want them to be acquired right now, and I also didn't want them to just grow. Or what was the last one? Reject the acquisition and grow. I wanted them to reject it and then plan to do an IPO in 2004. And I emphasize plan. I mean, I think there's a lot that can change their mind. I think with Salesforce going public in a couple months, I think that's going to give them a good understanding of the market and the expectation. And I think they list out a lot of good reasons on not acquiring because they can grow themselves, like you said, in the CRM market. It had the 4 bullet points on why they could beat out those big companies that they're worried of. And also going public later, it would help them boost that visibility, I think that they mentioned. And so that's the one I would choose. So it's interesting that we all have different things that we would do.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are wrong and I'm right, but that's okay. I don't think it's a reflection on you as individuals.
Jason, I was on your team.
That's right. You were. Thank you for your support. Okay. What should Greg do? Well, we all had different ideas. Consider Greg's goals as well as the goals of everyone else who's involved in this venture. I think we kind of talked about the goals. You know, I think the thing with going to be acquired is you basically give up, you turn yourself over to another company. So the direction of the company, where people are hired and who stays on and who doesn't, that's all up in the air when you turn it over to a company. So that's the risk you run.
All right, so we want to hear more on the whole outcome of Oracle buying. So
was it Oracle?
Yeah, it was. So Wikipedia, says that they actually bought another company in 2011. Right Now did. And then later in 2011, they were acquired by Oracle for $1.5 billion.
Wow.
So
I'm interested to see how much.
So they.
I'd be interested to see how much the company that wanted to buy them is worth, and see if their equity that they own in that company would be anywhere close to the 1.5 billion.
And I wonder if the 1.5 billion, when they were acquired, did they pass on this opportunity and get acquired at some later date?
Yeah, they passed on it. They let's see, because it says that said at one point that they were it stayed as Right Now until 2011 because he had over 1,000 employees in 2011, just as Right Now. And they had bought a couple other companies along the way. So they were growing bigger by themselves.
Sarah's the winner.
Yep. Winner, winner, chicken dinner for you. Okay. Good.
Every once in a while I get lucky.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So which questions are we doing this week?
I am on 1 and 2.
I think I'm on 8 or 7, 8, 9.
And I think I did 3 and 4 last week, so 5 and 6. Braden, are you doing 3 and 4?
Yes, I'll do 3 and 4 and then you do 5.
5 and 6. Okay. Sounds like a plan. And then do we have a date for?
I was just looking, I don't know, I don't think we have to meet again this week.
Yeah, some essay that we have to write or something.
There's no more, doesn't look like.
It's like Christmas morning.
Saturday, I can sleep in.
That's right.
Yeah, but we'll have one next Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll go
All
with
right, so you
that.
guys,
Take care, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
bye.